I just knew that like at 12:30 something shifted. Something happened to me. I could feel like energy because I'm pretty sensitive to that stuff. So
Yeah.
when we talked like a couple days later, I was like, "Hey, what time did you scan me on Friday?" And she was like, "Oh, it was at 12:30."
Hello and welcome to Quantum Conversations. My name is Steph Warner, and I am an independent quantum living advocate for AOScan technology by Solex. I have been an avid user of the AOScan since 2020, and I'm hosting this video series so you can learn more about this incredible technology. The AOScan is a frequency-focused solution that is creating an entirely new paradigm in the wellness space. You will hear from practitioners who use it every day and see for yourself how you can implement this technology in your own practice or health journey. So thanks for joining us. Be sure to like, share, and follow this channel for more AOScan content like this. Today, we are chatting with Becky Kimbley, and I am so excited for you to meet this powerhouse practitioner. She has become one of the foremost experts in AOScan technology. She's a wealth of knowledge, and I can't wait for you to hear the amazing testimonials and other information she has to share. If you're a health practitioner, you definitely want to watch this from beginning to end. Becky has been practicing for over 25 years and utilizes a full body holistic approach to healing and restoring functional movement. She is a licensed massage therapist, personal trainer, CrossFit coach, functional medicine practitioner, certified holistic health practitioner, and Lyme specialist. She's also a traditional naturopathic doctor and physical therapist assistant, and is currently in school working on a PhD in natural medicine. Becky has been through 2 Lyme flares and has reversed Hashimoto's. She now teaches others how to do the same. She's currently teaching dynamic neuromuscular assessment, also DNA, and is mentoring others in the use of AOScan technology, as well as providing online education for Solex. And one of the reasons that I love Becky is because when I look for a practitioner, I want to find somebody who never stops learning and who is going to leave no stone unturned. And that is exactly who Becky is. Becky, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So I want people to hear from you about how you're using the AO scan, how you are running your professional practice and implementing this technology, maybe even like some of the services that you offer, how you use it for Lyme patients. So why don't you share some of that with us?
So everyone pretty much knows me because they've been following me on Facebook. So right before COVID, I was doing functional neurology, which is pretty much a hands-on modality. So when COVID hit and all of us were left scrambling with what to do with our practices, because obviously as a massage therapist, I could not work in an office anymore and actually work with people one-to-one. The AO scan device is what fell into my lap. So after utilizing it on myself for a while, I started really trying to see how can I use this in my practice. Now, what's really cool about the AO scan device is that it can be used remotely. So I was already a functional medicine practitioner, and then I ended up going back to school to get a couple more certifications, just so that I could really use this device in the fullest capacity that I can. Now, flash forward to now, I'm now using it primarily as a functional medicine practitioner and naturopath. I actually just hired my business partner, Jen Cathy, who is learning how to do dynamic neuromuscular assessment and functional neurology. So we kind of have 2 parts to the practice right now. We just finished rebranding. We're now Kimbley Quantum Collective. So, we're looking at working with everyone globally. Still can't believe that I'm working with people all over the world. But I'm utilizing the device again more from like the functional medicine, holistic naturopathy approach. Also, still doing some functional medicine with the scanner using the comprehensive and then the database. Her and I are both doing a lot of emotional work, utilizing the DNA template again, using the AO scan comprehensive in the database because it does show all those emotions and then the correlation of what organs all of that is affecting. We are still doing functional neurology in office. I actually just finished doing a remote session with someone today who came to me with structural pain in their shoulder. So ran comprehensive, pulled up the soft tissue of the shoulder, connective tissue of the shoulder, some nerves, lymph. And then from there, we were able to kind of like create a treatment plan or a wellness plan for them. Then I ran the database, looked at the emotions that were affecting that shoulder, realized it was adrenal, cortisol. I believe some of the emotions that were coming up were fear and grief. So we actually worked on that. That was their session today. And then, at the end of the session, we reassessed that range of motion, reassessed how that shoulder was feeling. And the client really had hardly any pain. And that was just from using the scanner, scanning, optimizing, creating a wellness plan with the DNA template. So it's pretty awesome what you can do.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I love that so many practitioners don't realize, and maybe they are looking for something that can be used remotely if, they want to offer that service and cut back on, seeing people in person. It just gives you so much more flexibility, but to also be able to see results in that short period of time from the optimizing frequencies, and the other thing that you do is just priceless. So tell me, what initially intrigued you about the AO scan and its application for a professional practice?
Well, so everyone knows my story behind Lyme. And I've probably had different types of frequency devices used on me over the last 8 years. And I was actually trying to find a device that I could use, for myself for home use. And if you know anything about frequency devices and like the Rife and the GB4000 and Zytoscan, like these are pretty costly for the average person. So I was actually about ready to purchase a GB4000. And then Nadia Lutz actually had scanned me. We were in a bunch of Lyme and mold groups, and she was talking about this scanner, and I was just like, what? So she scanned me. And I'll never forget the day that she scanned me because my second Lyme flare, I had so much brain fog that I just could not shake. And the day that she scanned me, it was like a Friday at 12:30 in the afternoon. That brain fog went away and never came back. And I was just like, holy crap, like, what is this? What just happened? She didn't even tell me like what time she was scanning me. I just knew that like at 12:30, something shifted, something happened to me. I could feel like energy because I'm pretty sensitive to that stuff. So
Yeah.
when we talked like a couple days later, I was like, hey, what time did you scan me on Friday? And she was like, oh, it was at 12:30. So it's like, wow, like I felt all that. And then to actually have that brain fog go away, it was probably almost a year and a half that I was trying to get rid of that through detox and all these herbs and supplements. And I just could not shake that. And I literally was like, how much is this device? I want it. Where do you get it? Like, sign me up right now. I didn't even know how much it was. And when she told me, I was kind of like, is there a joke? Like, why is it so inexpensive? And she was like, oh no, like, this is how it is. So I
Mm-hmm.
literally bought it like the next day and had it, started using it, started really seeing how things were more connected in my body than even, some of the other practitioners that were working with me, started looking at all the emotions that were coming up that were affecting the Lyme. So it was just like a godsend that I could actually see pretty much every day, like what was happening inside my body. I didn't need to wait and get lab work done every 3 to 4 months because I had access to that every day. So like I said, when I got really comfortable with it, then I was like, oh, I need to start offering this in my practice and like, getting my clients to utilize this technology because I feel like everyone needs to have access to this in their life.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe explain a little bit about how you did integrate this into your existing practice, because I think that might be one of the hurdles that some practitioners have about taking on any form of new technology is, am I going to have the time to do this? Is it going to take me a lot of time to learn how to use it? Am I going to need a whole other staff person just to run the device? So maybe just share a little bit about how that worked for you.
Yeah, so when clients came in, I just started running inner voice on them because inner voice is super easy, it's quick. And then people could actually see, like, oh, these are the emotions that are going on. And then this is how it's affecting your physical body. Because a lot of times, people come to me because of physical reasons. But then when I'm like, oh, well, that's because of an emotion, or that's because you're not creating boundaries, it starts to kind of really sink in. And then when you have a device that's literally showing you, well, this is where in the body this is happening, people start putting two and two together. So a lot of times when I was still doing body work, I would just run inner voice and they would listen to it in the room as I was working on them. And then sometimes I would offer to like run a frequency playlist for them and maybe imprint it into their glasses before they would leave, or imprint their bottle of water when they would come in, or jewelry, whatever it may be, so they could take that home with them. Well, then they were coming back in and starting to say, like, hey, that thing, whatever we were working on, like that went away after you ran those frequencies. I actually had, this was a remote client who had contacted me over in Holland. They had a herpes breakout. And this was early on when we were still able to stack frequencies. So I had run, I believe it was nerve inflammation, sciatic nerve, and herpes virus. And the person texted me like the next day and they were like, I don't know what you just did, but the herpes was completely gone. And I was
Right.
just like seriously? Like,
Yeah,
I have so many stories of like, things like that happening. And it's just like, I have no other explanation because herpes should not go away that quickly. Like,
right,
there's a whole process to that.
right.
So from a body worker standpoint, I was running inner voice, doing the CEPIs. Then when I started getting more comfortable with like reading people's labs and then looking at the scanner, especially the vital scan, was when I kind of transitioned more into like the functional nutrition aspect of everything. And I probably spent the first year really just analyzing like what was coming up on clients' lab work when they came in, and then what the scanner was telling me. And it literally was identical every scan that I was reading. So now I've kind of gotten to the point where I kind of shy away from labs. I mean, I might have people get lab work done if I really see something concerning, but the scanner has been that accurate. So it just gives me a peace of mind that what I'm looking at on a daily basis with people is just really confirming either my gut intuition or what I'm seeing as far as, the scanner and their symptoms. So, and then like for the structural aspect of everything, sometimes I would have clients that were kind of skeptical and I would be like, oh, well, let me just run a little scan on your SI joint and pelvis, and let's just see like what's going on. And then I literally would show them like, look, you see all this red here? And they're like, oh yeah, so there is something going on in there. So that it's kind of hard because people really don't understand energy. So I always would have, my thing with talking about energy was, if I call one cell phone number, only that cell phone's going to ring, not 10 other cell phones. So, I'm so used to kind of talking about that when I talk about energy to my clients because a lot of people still can't, wrap their brains around like how this is working. How is this working remotely? How does it know to find me? How does it know where I am? So, studying at Quantum University and studying quantum physics really kind of opens up the whole world of like we are quantumly entangled. Everything is energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you pointed that out because I think a lot of practitioners maybe are curious to know how to explain this to their clients. Are people going to be willing and open to experiencing it? And I like that you started off by introducing the Inner Voice program because there are so many different programs included in the AO scan that you really can tailor it to your unique practice, your unique, patient's needs. And you can start off a little bit slower if there's some people who might need some getting used to it. Or you can simply just scan them and say, hey, look, it just found this in your shoulder and you have a thing with your shoulder.
Yeah.
So maybe share just a little bit more about how you explain this to your clients and, are you finding that people are more open and willing to experience it now?
Yeah, I mean, most of the clients that I come in contact with are just because they all know that I've been using this. Early on, I kind of really didn't ask people. It was just part of my treatment. So if someone came with a knee issue, I was pulling out the scanner, looking at comprehensive, scanning and seeing what would come up. And again, you're scanning, but also optimizing. So sometimes I kind of was like, well, was it the optimization that made that knee better, or was it because I did DNA and some functional neurology? I'll never know. But for them to come in and see that, report on the comprehensive. Sometimes I had clients that I was working with, and then on a side note, they would be like, "Hey, I'm having a lot of like digestion issues, or like I burp every time I eat this. Oh, let me run, the vital scan, and let's see like what foods are coming up." So then I'm like, "Oh, well, you have sensitivities to all this," and they're like, "Oh, well, that makes sense because every time I eat X, Y, and Z, like this happens to me." So I kind of like didn't really ask people. It was just part of my treatment plan, because it gives me, the practitioner, like, it's like I have a third set of eyes. So I can use muscle testing, which I do a lot of, but early on I was using the scanner and then muscle testing to confirm what the scanner was telling me. Like I
Hmm.
didn't trust the scanner or something, but now I
Right.
don't even bother because I'm like, the scanner is just so accurate.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and that's so interesting too, because I was an emotion code body code practitioner, and that is all based off of muscle testing. And I felt the same. The scanner was so incredibly accurate that there was no way I could muscle test hundreds of things or even thousands of things at one
Yeah.
time. And it just did it so much more quickly and accurately that I now just use the AO scan full time. Um, so I think I would love to hear one of your favorite testimonials with using the AO scan. And yeah, then we can move on to some other questions. But I think it's important for people to hear these stories of how it is positively impacting people's lives, whether you're a practitioner or you're an individual using it. So, what's one of your favorites?
My early on, my favorite was I actually found a pars fracture in a high school kid. I think it was like 3 weeks before he actually had x-rays done. Now, this high school athlete was having pain in his spine in a very specific point, and it was very pinpoint and very acute. And I obviously, because I have a PT background, so I put him through some orthopedic tests, and I was just like, in my mind, I'm thinking, I think this kid has a stress fracture. So in the meantime, the mom, this is like 6 months this was going on. And the mom was taking him to physical therapy and getting chiropractic done, and the kid wasn't any better. So I ran a scan on him, and again, comprehensive connective tissue, looked at the discs, looked at the ligaments, looked at the bones, and like L4, L5 was completely lit up double red. And then the disc, and I was just like, I think this kid has a stress fracture. So I didn't say that to his mom, but I'm like, I think you really need to go get an x-ray of your, son's spine because I think there's more going on than what medicine is letting you guys know. So I'm still working with this kid, gave him some like basic PT exercises to do, and 3 weeks later the mom like sends me a copy of the kid's x-rays, and there is the pars fracture at L4 L5 on the x-ray, and I just was like, oh my god. So then I'm like freaking out because the child was still being manipulated by a chiropractor, and I kind of like cringed. So I was
Right.
I was kind of like, well, we kind of already had an idea that, this was happening based on what the AO scan was showing. So I have that. I actually had another client who the scanner found a labral tear, but the MRI didn't in the hip. And then I had another lady who came to me when I've had plenty of stories like this, but I had a lady who was diagnosed with MS, and wasn't getting any better. And then, through running the vital scan and body systems, we actually found that it was Lyme and mold exposure. So kind of like me was, being treated for Hashimoto's when the whole time I had chronic Lyme and nobody ever knew it and never was diagnosed despite having blood work, 3 times, and all 3 times was negative. So, it's been able to find a lot of other things that have been going on with people, which has kind of explained why some clients have just not really progressed in their health and haven't really gotten better. Or it's shown us that a lot of the issues that they are having aren't really structural at all or physiological. They're all emotional. So, because again, it's staring you right in the face and it's telling you what's wrong with you.
Right, right. Yeah, so maybe share a little bit about how, since you are a Lyme specialist, how the AO scan has helped you with those Lyme clients and, how you sort of the protocol or the method that you use with the AO for that particular illness.
So again, with the AO, it does show a lot of Lyme and co-infections. And then with Lyme, you always see like an umbrella of either mold, candida, fungus, parasites, herpes, Epstein-Barr. There's usually mineral deficiencies, amino acid deficiencies. A lot of times you'll see leaky gut. So there's kind of like, when I say Lyme, there's kind of like this whole big umbrella of things that potentially are problematic. But the scanner is able to kind of show us all that. And then I sit back. This is where the time comes from a practitioner standpoint, because I do spend a lot of time looking at lab work and then reviewing these scans. I mean, sometimes it takes me an hour to look at a scan before the hour appointment that I have. So, you kind of have to take that into consideration when you're thinking about your pricing structure and everything. And I just lost track of where I was going to go with that. Oh, so looking at the vital scan and then running inner voice and the emotions, you can really start to kind of see like the days Lyme shows up in people. Because I have a theory, because I have
Mhm.
studied German New Medicine. I'm not 100% sure that Lyme is really like a thing, and I shouldn't really say that, but I think there's a lot of emotions that are driven behind it. Because there have been so many people that I have scanned, and people have Lyme that have never been bitten. Like I was one of those people who never had a bullseye. I don't ever recall getting Lyme. In a lot of my Lyme training, like, we were taught that it's, can be passed down from generation to generation. It's in, our blood donation banks. Some people think it's in our food sources. So it's kind of like everyone has it. And this is what I ended up doing my thesis on, for naturopathy, was Lyme and emotions, because what I started noticing not only in myself but in a lot of my clients is Lyme kind of like comes and goes. It's kind of like that thing that's there and go on the next. Sometimes, not with everybody, but I know with me, the days that anger came up, or frustration or irritation, which were a lot of the kind of like Achilles heels with me, was the day that I was seeing Borrelia, Babesia, Bartonella, any of those Lyme co-infections show up. So with using the vital scan and the inner voice, I was kind of really able to hone in on, okay, these are the emotions now that are triggering the Lyme. So if I want the Lyme to go away, I need to start working on these emotions. So that's a lot of what I like to work with a lot of Lyme clients at some point, because you're only going to get so far with diet and detoxification and taking herbs and supplements. And I was one of those people. The second Lyme flare that I had, I just wasn't coming through as quickly. And it wasn't until I started looking at emotions, regulating the nervous system, doing some limbic retraining, a lot of those thoughts and belief patterns that I was, telling myself, I really needed to like look at things differently. And then once I started doing that, I started noticing that there wasn't as much Lyme showing up on the scans the next day. So my program, when I work with a lot of chronic illness people, is looking at the structure, looking at physiologically what is happening, doing some dietary changes, some detoxification, but then also addressing the emotions and our thoughts and our belief systems.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge believer in that as well, as a former emotion code practitioner. And I think it's so important. I'm so grateful that you shared that and that you really kind of have been seeing this trend of emotions connected to certain diseases. Um, so I'm wondering, I think some practitioners might be curious, like I mentioned earlier, how long is it going to take me to learn all of this? Is it really difficult to learn how to use? I personally think they've made it pretty easy. It's basically just like a one-touch system. But Solex also offers 3 different phases of training. And the first one is pretty basic for the average user, but phase 2 and 3 are geared more towards practitioners, and they also begin to unlock some additional databases and information. I know that you have completed these phases, so maybe just touch on how Solex University has impacted your ability to use the device in your practice, and also unlocking this additional information, just the value that it brings.
Yeah, so I just finished phase three, I don't know, probably about a month ago, month and a half ago, and I will tell you, I use it every day. If anyone follows me on Facebook, like almost every day I'm posting like something that happened with one of my clients and how I was able to connect all the dots. But I absolutely love the dental. The dental and the TMJ has kind of been like the icing on the cake for me. And the reason being, so like today I had a case, adrenal stuff was coming up, cortisol. I go run the dental tooth 23 and 24. So it's like the two front bottom teeth, they correlate with the kidneys and the bladder. So it's like kind of looking at like the top down approach and bottom up approach. So all the stuff that I was seeing on the scans is like being confirmed in the database and then being confirmed in the dental. And it all just comes back. It kind of just comes back all around. The phase two and phase three training, if you're a practitioner, I really think that you need that because that is going to unlock the database. The homeoenergetics, I really like too. I think they're stronger and more pinpoint focused on the specific body area that you're looking to target, more than just using the Cephis alone. And then, like I said, that for me, the database has been like the next best thing beside the dental, because when I'm doing a lot of emotional clearing, probably like you too, like I'm looking at the database and seeing like, okay, these top three emotions is what is currently in the adrenal system. Like this is what we need to work on to try to help your adrenals. I just happen to use something called DNA, which is the DNA template. So we're able to prioritize like the order of releasing the emotions, and then if it's appropriate to be released, there's this whole protocol that we use. So that has been huge for me. And then again, using the dental kind of confirms everything that I'm seeing on someone's scan. So it just ties everything together. The phase two and three training are super easy. They really want you to succeed and pass. So the answers are kind of like right there in front of you. You just have to find them. And I love Deb because Deb Bruce really just, makes everything simple and easy to understand. So while I think you do have to have some, health or wellness, knowledge, I mean, anyone can use this. I have an 82-year-old on my team, and she just scans and optimizes every day. Some
That's
people,
awesome.
they get so wrapped up in like, I don't know how to read these reports. And I'm like, who cares? Like, just scan and optimize every day. The device knows what it needs to do to you. Like, don't freak out about all this stuff. There's
Right,
plenty of days that I don't even look at my scans. I really only look at them if I'm like, oh, that's weird. Why did that show up?
right.
I mean, the device knows what it needs to do. So,
Yes, it really is so user friendly for anyone, from the most beginner user who only knows how to just tap a button on their phone to the
yep.
most advanced practitioner who really has, a lot of education and knowledge and willingness to incorporate frequencies into their practice. So now that you have unlocked all of these different levels and more information and databases, that really you don't have to have, but it's nice to have, right? If you could use only one of the AOScan programs in your practice, which one would you choose and why?
Probably supplements and therapies. That's my favorite category. I kind of use a device. I like to call myself a rogue because I don't use things the way that Solex tells you to use it. I kind of go outside the box because, again, if you understand how energy works, you can literally use your imagination. So what I mean by that, like I do group Cephis. I know, that's not something that Solex has trained us to do. I send frequencies remotely to people's Cephi dots, which is something that I played around with, and it actually works. Um, for my own personal, I was, again, wanted to see if I needed iodine. I didn't have iodine. So I was like, well, let me just put it in the quick scan and supplements and therapies and just put it in and save it, not scan it in and see if it comes up. Well, then I started noticing every day I was doing quick scan, iodine was showing up. Okay, I need iodine. Go buy iodine. Well, now which one do I need? So I bought 3 different types of iodine, put them all in the scanner. My body only liked one. So here's where you get into how many people do you know spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on supplements a month only to flush half of them down the toilet because your body doesn't want, I don't know, half of them.
Yeah.
So that's why I like that supplement, because it's literally telling you this is the brand you like, this is the delivery you like, this is, the possible milligrams that you need. So you're getting so specific as to what it is your body's need at that point in time, which in a nutshell is actually going to save you money from spending, $300 a month on supplements that your body doesn't need half of them. So supplements would be my favorite category.
I'm so glad that you said that because I feel the same way. There are
Mm-hmm.
so many people that are not even using the supplement therapies library and or just don't understand its application. And for me, I feel like it is one of the most important pieces, especially for practitioners. If you have someone in your office or you're doing remote scans for someone and you are able to scan the supplements that you have in your clinic, whatever you may be selling or just keeping in your clinic to share with your clients, you can tell them on the spot in 10 seconds the top 6 supplements that are most in resonance with their body in that moment. And I would almost guarantee, this is my personal belief because I've done it a lot, when you scan someone with the supplement therapies and you're doing like an easy scan so you can see their report at the same time, you can tie in those supplements that pop up to the results in their report
Yep.
every single time.
Yep.
Eh,
Yeah.
it never fails. It never fails. It is so incredibly accurate. And I love the supplement library too. And that's one that I think could be a game changer for practitioners if they were to be using it regularly. So yes, thanks for
Yeah.
sharing
I
that.
mean, you know how sometimes on the scans people are like, well, I don't know if I need this or I don't need that, because sometimes the nines and the ones aren't always like so cut and dry. And my whole thing is like, well, if you're not sure, put it in the scanner. If it tells you you need copper or iodine, then probably
Yeah,
what you're seeing on your vital scan is telling you that you need it. So,
yeah,
if you're not good at muscle testing, that's what I usually have my clients do. I'm like, hey, just put it in the scanner, see if it comes up. If you keep seeing something show up on your vitals, put it in the quick scan, see if it's telling you that you need it. Because it's kind of like a fail safe. Sometimes muscle testing can go wonky with people. I mean, let's be
yeah,
honest, we're all humans. We all have
yeah,
energy, different energy. So I feel like you don't have that bias with the scanner, which
yeah,
is why I always
absolutely.
recommend that. So yeah, that's probably my favorite.
Awesome. So we know that you are seeing people in person, you're doing remote sessions. I'm interested, to know how your practice from a business standpoint has evolved over the last couple of years since integrating AO Scan. Like, how has it impacted your revenue? How has it impacted the number of people that you're able to serve now versus before you had it?
Everything's doubled.
That's awesome.
Practitioner. That's why I hired Jen. Jen's my business partner. So, you know, it was funny. The first week she came up, she was like, I don't have any people scheduled. I'm like, calm down, you'll be fine. I think she ended up having like 6 or 7 people that first week after panicking and seeing the schedule that was completely empty. Cause I mean, everyone
Yeah.
was seeing me. And then I had to transition like a lot of people over to her. And then she got all new people. So social media has completely like skyrocketed us from Facebook. The little bit that Solex has been doing, I'm sure there's going to be more to come. I know when I did my day of discovery talk when I was out there, like I got so overwhelmed with the amount of people who were contacting me for help. So social media, literally from a financial standpoint, I mean everything's doubled. Clients have doubled. We've been able to see people outside the United States, so it's not just we're homed in Downingtown, Pennsylvania, like we used to be. So it's been a blessing. Sometimes I'm like, how did I get here?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is not what I anticipated at all. And I know, like, for me with COVID, I kind of really, was really thinking about, like, how am I going to run my business when I go back to normal? And I'm like, it's never going to be normal again. So I literally had to pivot and shift, and figure out a way how I could still create income and still work without actually like touching people. So again, I believe everything happens for a reason. There's a reason why certain individuals have come into my life. There's a reason why this scanner popped into my life. um, I've learned how to let go and just let the chips fall where they fall, and my path has just been completely laid out and enlightened for me, which it's really hard when you're like a type A.
Right.
You want to try to control everything and you're trying to run your business, and then everything just gets completely blown out of the water.
Yeah.
So
And
it's been really good. It's been good for me too.
that's amazing. I love hearing that. And I know that you're not the only practitioner who has experienced that either. I know so many others who brought the AO scan into their practice, their business, or even just their personal life. And all of a sudden it was like, oh my goodness, things just changed overnight. I know that that happened for me and my sister. And it's one thing as practitioners, we want to help people. We want to serve as many people as we can, but we also experience burnout, and there's only so much that we can do. And I love that the AO scan not only brings this new tool into your practice that can help your clients feel better, help you to get that to the root cause of some of their issues, but also it's a financial piece as well. You can bring in more revenue and income by charging for scans, by selling things like Cepheid dots or imprinting homeopathic frequencies into sugar pellets. There's so many different ways that this can expand your business while at the same time helping your clients in ways that you never even thought was possible, right? It just the possibilities with this are endless. And I think that's really important, for practitioners to consider when they're thinking about a technology like this, because like you said, there are other devices out there. And we know that there's some really amazing competition out there that costs tens of thousands of dollars. And this is like a turnkey system that you can instantly start earning an income with, by offering scans. And yeah, I love it. I personally love it for that piece, and I think it's important. So do you have any other testimonials that you would like to share? Anything else that comes to mind?
I mean, I could talk for hours about all the stuff that I've seen in my office and just the ways that I've been able to help people. But I think, at the end of the day, this is like my biggest thing is we are giving the power back to the people. We
Yes.
we are creating, we are allowing, how do I want to say this? By giving the power back to you guys, you can take your health into your own hands, because, if you can see like kind of how things are going in the country right now and with the way healthcare is, like, I don't know about everyone else, but I like to know that at the end of the day, if something's awry in my system, like, I don't have to rely on a medication, or I don't have to rely on going to the doctor or waiting to get blood work done. Like, I literally can just kind of like work with things on the fly. A lot of times I get people messaging me, hey, this happened, can you run a scan, do this, do that? And I'm like, in less than 5 minutes, I can know exactly what's going on, and then either suggest things to them or run frequencies on them. um, I think that's the biggest thing, is like, you have control of your health, and for less than $5 a day.
Yes.
People are like, oh, I mean, yes, we do have a subscription, but I don't think it's that expensive. If you just like look at everything that you do in your daily life and break it down, it's less than $5 a day. So maybe sacrifice that fancy coffee, which you shouldn't be drinking anyway if you have adrenal issues and mold, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So what do you think the future of medicine looks like now that frequency technology like the AO scan is available?
it's all going to be frequency medicine. I actually have my hands in a couple different frequency devices just because they all kind of do something a little bit different. Um, so when I'm looking at people's scans, sometimes I might pull out other things that I have because it's just something that that client will need at that time. Just because I have all these fancy tools doesn't mean I use them on everybody. A lot of times it goes back to that muscle testing and like what does that nervous system need, what does that body need, and how can I help and support that at that time. And again, knowing that frequencies are everywhere, and I mean they've been using frequencies for many years. It's just now available to the general public, and knowing that the general public can afford something like this and be able to utilize it for their everyday health, like to me that's just like mind-blowing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's the future of medicine, I feel, looks so bright, and it gives me so much hope knowing that technology like this is already available and hardly anyone has even heard of it yet. Like we're on the cutting edge of introducing this to the world. So just one final question. What message do you have for either practitioners or just a person who may be experiencing some level of illness, who may be on the fence about AOScan technology? What would you say to them?
If they're an everyday person and they've been like stuck in this like loop of just being sick all the time, I would say just do it. When in doubt, just get the subscription, try it out for a little bit, because I guarantee you're going to start connecting the dots and finding what your root cause is. Because unfortunately, like that's what traditional medicine, they miss the boat on that. They don't even acknowledge that chronic Lyme's a thing. Like, let's just think about that.
Right.
And I've talked to a lot of different practitioners, and I'm always just like, you need this. Like, you get blood work on the fly. You'll be like, sometimes I laugh in some of the other groups I'm in because people are like, oh, I have this, that, and the other. And I'm sitting here back here like, oh, it's Lyme or it's mold or it's this. Like, I already know, which is kind of frustrating because it's like we have this great technology and this great software, and it's like nobody knows.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. And we need to get this out in everyone's hands, get more practitioners using it. It's not complicated to use.
Right.
You literally can scan and optimize in less than 5 minutes. So, that's been kind of my whole thing, is like just introducing this to everybody and showing people how easy it is. And then showing them all the things that potentially you can find, if you want to find stuff that's wrong with people. But again, like I've been able to find a lot of things that other people have not been able to find just based on using the frequencies.
Yeah, it truly is amazing. And I'm so grateful that you joined us today to share your stories, share how you're using it, share your wealth of knowledge. I appreciate it so much. So thank you for that. And I want to know, I'm sure people want to know where they can find you online. We're going to share Becky's links in the description below. But Becky, why don't you just tell people where it's easiest to find you?
So yeah, we have our website, which is KimbleyQuantumCollective.com. The website is full of AOScan information. It talks about, what Jen and I do as far as functional neurology, functional medicine, naturopathy. And then it actually talks about dynamic neuromuscular assessment. If that's something that you're interested in doing, I will potentially be teaching another course in Nashville in March, I believe. It's tentative. It's tentatively,
Okay.
not sure yet. And then we have the Quantum Wellness Solutions with AOScan Facebook group. That is a public group, so a lot of people join that group because I dump a lot of my AOScan information in there for free. Um, Also forgot to mention too, like in addition to the Solex courses, I do have 4 different AOScan courses from my website too. So if you'd like to learn more about how to connect the dots on your scans, that's what those courses are for.
Yes, Becky has so many different offerings available. I know lots of people on my team have enrolled in her courses and found them to be so helpful. She is always sharing amazing stories on Facebook, so you can find her there as well. And again, just thank you so much for coming on and being willing to have this conversation with us so that more people can learn about this amazing tool and how they can use it. So you can also find us on Facebook as well. We're going to share those links in the description below, and be sure to like, share, and follow this channel for more amazing AOScan content like this. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. Bye-bye.